Parents strongly caution the following programs are intended for mature audiences over the age of 18. These programs may contain some material that many parents would not find suitable for children and may include intense violence, sexual situations, coarse language, and suggestive dialogue.
Picture this. It's Wednesday, May 15th, 2013, and it's exactly 6 p.m. You and your brother just finished watching the last episode of Regular Show, and then suddenly you both hear the strums of an acoustic guitar in the air. King of the Hill originally aired on Adult Swim from January 12, 1997 to May 18, 2008 before its revival in 2025. It is a funny, down-to-earth show featuring relatable characters and authentic storytelling due to its use of emotional realism in real-world setting. With it being based in the fictional town of Arlen, Texas, starring Hank Hill, a salesman of propane and propane accessories, his wife Peggy, famously known for her fluent Spanish, and their son Bobby, who frequently manages to worry his father over 90% of the time. The show mainly revolves around the lives of them interacting with their family and friends, as well as strangers they might encounter around their town. This could include a pimp with a purple cape or an over-religious lady out to get Halloween canceled. And in the mix of all of this chaos, we see lives no different from our own. We see everyday people doing everyday things. We see our friends, our neighbors, and our loved ones reflected in these very characters. And so it would also make sense to fit this realistic theme of storytelling that we will also look at their struggles as well. William Fontaine de la Tour Dautrive, aka Bill, is a deeply depressed and lonely divorcee who engages in self-destructive behavior. This often makes him seem like a burden to the people around him, but what makes this story truly tragic and possibly one of the most heartbreaking characters of the entire show is how he got to where he is, as the anxious and highly insecure man that we know him as today. An episode I feel perfectly fits the tone of who Bill Dautrive is as a person would be Season 3, Episode 9, Pretty Pretty Dress. We start the episode, like most episodes, in the famous rainy street alley, with Bill sobbing as he dreads the upcoming Christmas season, due to it being a painful reminder of the anniversary of the day his ex-wife Lenore left him 7 years ago on Christmas Eve. After stating that holidays are the least lonely time of the year, we see him leave the alley once again crying as he returns home with his friends, seemingly indifferent to his struggles. It is important to note that a common theme associated with King of the Hill is his takes on masculinity and realistic representation of male-centered relationships. For example, Hank's father, Cotton Hill, is represented as a hyper-masculine, authoritative figure who has no problem openly displaying misogynistic tendencies.
It's about time! Love for sissies! Ain't that right, you house full of hookers?
But that's not all there is to him. In Season 4, Episode 1, after the birth of his new son, Good Hank, aka GH, we see him showing affection to the newborn by making baby noises out of excitement. It is believed that Cotton wasn't always as bad as he is, but is instead a product of his time and experiences in the military during World War II. I believe it is also worth noting that according to Hank, Cotton was 6'4" before enlisting and came back 5 foot even, as a result of having both of his shins blown off by a Japanese turret during the war. There are actually many complicated layers that make up his character and many other representations of masculinity in the Hillverse. I could make an entire breakdown on just this topic alone, but my overall point is that even if Bill's friends may seem unmoved by his struggles, they still deeply care about him. They just have problems with openly showing it, which is actually a big theme in a lot of the episodes. But seeing as how this episode is about Bill, let's get back to him. We see Hank leave to check on Bill under the guise of wanting a cookie, since Bill always keeps cookies around. The reason being revealed in Season 13, Episode 1, titled Diabolic, where he mentions his mother would give him cookies whether he was happy or sad.
My mom's fault. When I was sad, she'd give me cookies. But when I was happy, she'd give me cookies. All of my emotions demand cookies, Hank.
We have no way of knowing if this was either a way of spoiling him or a sort of a form of neglect, seeing as how we never really see his mom in the show, so we have no way of knowing. After visiting Bill, Hank finds him surrounded by all of the presents and decorations present the day Lenore left him 7 years ago. He then states that when Lenore eventually returns, she will be happy he kept him. And though Hank does try to tell him that she won't be back, Bill's sobbing causes him to once again play into his delusions.
Bill, you've got to face the facts. She's not... Well, It's very unlikely that,
A common theme of King of the Hill is that when a problem is not directly something that pertains to you, you mind your own business. The best representation of this will be Dale Gripple, Hank's other best friend, whose wife Nancy was engaged in a 14-year-long affair with John Redcorn. R.I.P. Jonathan Ross. Hank invites Bill over for dinner, whose depression causes him to ruin the atmosphere by bringing up the failed relationships of everyone at the table, including Buckley, Luann's boyfriend, who died in a horrific propane fire.
You ever think about that dead boyfriend of yours?
Well,
I wonder if you'll ever find someone again. I mean, most people just get one relationship in this life.
Fast forward to the next day, and during breakfast, we get to see why Hank is so dedicated to helping Bill. He mentions how in high school, Bill blocked for him during their high school football days, but the relationship actually goes deeper than that. In Season 7, Episode 19, titled Be True to Your Fool, we learn about Bill's past, and we for the first time get to see how Bill has far fallen from his heyday. We learn that Bill actually dropped out his senior year in high school to enlist in the military, and we see a complete 180 from the Bill we know and love. We see an athletic, confident man who looks like he has the ability to take on the entire world, the complete opposite of who he is today. We also see in that episode that Hank gets drunk and causes a scene at a bar, causing Bill to step up and hold off a group of men planning to hurt him. This flashback gives us, the viewer, more insight on why Hank and the people around Bill are still willing to help him. They still remember him for the man that he used to be. The next night, we see Bill back over for dinner again, this time with a pet iguana. It's named after his ex-wife, Lenore, and once again, he makes the dinner an awkward moment for the Hill family. Later that night, he even barges into Hank and Peggy's bedroom, telling them about a nightmare he had where Lenore came back to steal Lenore.
And then Lenore drove off with Lenore, and I ran down the street after him, and I yelled, "Lenore! Lenore!"
The consequences of this being Hank not inviting him over for dinner the following night under the guise of him wanting to spend more time with him. We then get a solemn look on Bill's home life where we see only one fork, cup, and plate, indicating that he never, if ever, has had anyone over for a long period of time. Which would make sense since at this point in time, his last serious relationship would be with his ex-wife. And since he also has trouble keeping and attracting women, and even when he does, it can never last long term due to obvious emotional and physical abandonment issues topped with the nature of him being extremely easy to manipulate. The best example of this would be Season 2, Episode 19, titled Leanne's Saga. When Bill starts dating Leanne, the mother of Luann, Peggy's niece, we see how easy he is to manipulate. We see how easily he goes along with her obvious controlling nature and mean-spirited jabs. We also see how far Bill is willing to go to appease people. We see him use his medicine money to make her happy instead, completely of his own free will. After enjoying a sad meal of noodles and meat sauce, we see Bill make his way over to Hank's house where he listens in on the family's conversation. Eventually, he decides that his loneliness is too much to take and tries an unsuccessful attempt at taking his own life.
What you doing there, Bill? Satellite dish trouble?
No, I'm just up here to kill myself.
This is what ultimately made me notice the difference between King of the Hill and other adult animated television shows at the time. Because unlike shows that relied on gags and cutaways like Family Guy and The Simpsons, we have characters and situations that we would see in our world. But not only are they in these situations, they have to solve them in a realistic and humane way without a magical or insanely unrealistic plot device being used to solve it. After Bill's attempt on his life, we get this line from Hank.
we need to find him a psychiatrist.
He's just suicidal, Peggy. He's not crazy.
I find this both funny and a great way of showing the audience the wrong way of handling a mental health crisis. They aren't things that just blow over or just pass by. And him phrasing it like this reminded me of how, before postpartum depression was formally recognized, women were just told that these emotions would just blow over or pass by, which we know is completely false. The guys all come up with an idea of watching Bill until he comes out of this depression, and we are given a short montage of each of the guys watching him as he makes more unsuccessful attempts on his life.
Not on my watch.
Which all leads up to a dinner scene where, after being set up on a date by Peggy and Hank, Bill's pet iguana Lenore manages to make his way out of the window and runs away, sending Bill into having a breakdown in his own home. At this point, Hank, who has had enough of Bill's shenanigans, destroys all of the old gifts he once bought Lenore, leaving Bill in an almost robotic state.
You feel okay?
I don't feel anything.
Great, I knew you'd snap out of this.
The next day, after finding his iguana, Hank attempts to return it to him, but finds Bill in his backyard, dressed in what we can only assume to be Lenore's old clothing, and insists that he is now Lenore, who has returned after realizing how much she has loved Bill. Later in the episode, we see Hank skinning potatoes with Peggy and Luann while voicing his worry for Bill over his psychotic break. Peggy says that the only way for Bill to ever win his ex-wife back was to eventually become her, since that was the only way she would ever come back. And we actually get an insightful thought from Luann about how they can actually help Bill.
It sounds to me like Mr. Dautrieve needs closure. He needs to realize that Lenore's never coming back, and he needs to just move on with his life. It's the same thing Buckley's angel told me.
This scene concludes with Peggy offering to invite the real Lenore over to see Bill in hopes that she can help break him out of his funk. Towards the end of the episode, we finally see everything boil over to its tipping point as Bill shows up to the party in a dress, shocking all of the other guests.
May I offer you a homemade tater tot, Mr. and Mrs. Dautrieve?
Why, thanks.
But things don't fully go off the rails until Peggy receives a phone call from the real Lenore, who informs her that she will not only not be coming to the party, but that she doesn't want to speak to Bill at all, which adds another layer of heartbreak to an already chaotic situation. Bill then proceeds to break down at the party while at the same time the other guests are gearing up to physically assault him. But before things can truly get out of hand, Hank shows up in one of Peggy's dresses pretending to be Lenore in hopes of bringing Bill back from the edge of insanity. We see him implement Luann's idea of giving Bill closure by realizing Lenore will never come back, by reminding him of all of the bad times that he had in his marriage.
We fight so loud all the neighbors can hear. We fight during the day, we fight during the night.
With all of this eventually leading to Bill finally standing up for himself in what I consider to be one of the most heartfelt and motivational moments of the entire episode.
You didn't even have the courtesy to send me a Dear John letter? Well, I tell you what, I consider that rude. And I'll tell you something, I am worth a Dear John letter. I'll tell you that right now.
The episode closes with Bill admitting that he hit rock bottom and that from now on it's all uphill from here. We also get a nice shot of him and Hank looking at the stars shining over Arlen, leaving us hopeful for Bill's future. Bill Dautrieve is by far one of the most emotionally complex characters that I've ever seen on TV, with his obvious struggle of being a deeply lonely man stuck in his past accomplishments. But on the other side, we know him as a kind and loyal man who would do anything for his friends and loved ones, even put himself at a disadvantage, making him one of King of the Hill's best written and most interesting characters, and I for one can't wait to see what they do for him in the future in the new revival. If you enjoyed this breakdown, please make sure to like and subscribe and let me know if I missed anything. Let me know if there's a character or show that you would like me to analyze, and until then, I'll see you next time.